Hey, this is Pastor Barrett of the Empowered Living Church. We're here with my good friend here, Mike McBride, Pastor Mike McBride of the Black Church Action Fund, Black Church Rocks. Mike has been leading a bus tour, motivating the community to get out and vote for about 14 cities, in 14 cities in about 10 days in 4 states. Pastor Mike, man, the election was yesterday, but we're still waiting to hear about the outcome of today's yesterday's election. I just want to get your take on what's going on. How are you feeling? First, how are you feeling? You've been
Well,
busy.
I'm tired, dear brother. That bus took a lot out of us, even though it was a nice, comfortable bus. But it is a joy to be able to have the privilege to go to 14 cities where Black folks live and breathe and work and worship, and touch down with them and hear and experience not only their enthusiasm but some of their deepest questions about the future that lies in front of us. So I'm excited. I'm enthusiastic in my spirit. My body is weary, but I'm glad that we are going to defeat Donald Trump. It is, I think, a
Yes.
blessing to be able to bring his leadership to a very quick ending. And
Yes.
now we have to figure out the aftermath of how we will govern and repair much of the damage he has created.
Now say it again. Are you predicting that Joe Biden is going to win this election?
Oh yeah. I think the numbers are teaching and telling us that Pennsylvania may not come in for Joe Biden, but
Hmm.
looks like Michigan and Wisconsin will. I think Wisconsin's already been declared. Arizona will,
Yes.
and so will Nevada. And at that point, you don't need the 20 vote electoral votes from Pennsylvania because Biden will have picked up Arizona and Nevada. So Joe Biden will be the next president of the United States, and
Yes.
we will have to figure out what does it mean for us to govern a little bit with a split government, which may create the necessary kind of balance folks need to feel like the country's not being handed over to some ideological leanings. But I think having a steady hand at the helm is going to do this country well.
I think so too. I think we can find some sort of grace and mercy in the process of being able to have a president who is focused, even
Hmm.
till.
Yeah.
And so what did you experience on the road? I mean, we're a day after. Now we have to think about what leadership is. So how do you transition from what you experienced? What did you see on the road? And how do we transition from what you experienced on the road into the next 100 days or so?
Well, I think what I saw on the road was a lot of concern for the future. I think people rightly had their finger on a pulse of concern that we definitely have a lot of issues that are not being resolved by the political leadership at the national and federal level. But we also
Hmm.
have a lot of mismanagement and unresponsive government happening at the local level. Housing crises all across these cities was an issue, and it was fascinating because we were in big cities and small cities, and people talked about the rising number of homeless or unhoused loved ones. People were still talking about COVID and the lack of uh, health care and adequate responses to not just people who get sick, but also people who have yet to be sick. Folks are still
Yeah.
not very clear about the virus because of the misinformation that has trivialized this virus. There was concern among seniors around the support for them in their golden years. The young people were still concerned about policing and access to opportunity. And so we found these themes everywhere. But we also found, I think, a rising American electorate, I like to call it, a huge infusion of first time voters, people who were very much excited about the prospect of voting for the first time. Even though they may not have liked their choices, they understood they had a need and a reason to exercise the franchise of voting. And so I think all across the board, people have very much rightly identified the need for engagement and accountability. And now it's up to us in this moment to do everything we can to ensure that that engagement and accountability translates to a level of governance that changes the material conditions of Black people in this country, not just awards the progressive coalition. I call it
Right.
body but black people benefit, right? I think
Yes. Right.
but we deserve to have this government work for us and solve problems on our behalf. And so I think we got to make that front and center. That's what we plan to do in the Black Church PAC, Black Church Action Fund universe. We're going to focus on governance, and we need all y'all listening to get ready to help us storm the gates of your mayors and governors and senators and congresspeople and even the president to make sure we can do what we can to ensure that this democracy works for us.
Now you said and the president. So regardless of who sits in the White House, I think does the tactic change or the agenda change or how do we approach it? You know, if
No,
there's a Biden presidency versus
I,
a Trump presidency.
I approach it the same way I'd approach it. Well, let me say this. I was in the Obama White House. I refused to go to the Trump White House. So now I'm open to go back to the Biden White House if I ever get invited. But it's not about me being there. It's about our interests. It's about our people.
Yes.
It's about things we care about. No permanent enemies, no permanent allies, only permanent interests. And so it's really
Yes.
important for us with this Biden campaign to be particularly pushed by the Black church in particular about the need for our issues to be addressed at the forefront of their administration. Joe Biden would not even be the Democratic nominee if it weren't for Black folk, Black church people, Black Southern church people.
Say it
So
again.
that
He wouldn't be what? Say it again. What did you just say? He wouldn't
Joe
be
Biden
what?
would not even be the nominee if it was not for
Uh,
Black church people, Black church
uh,
Southern people. So Joe Biden owes Black people a lot just to have even got to this point. And I know he ran to the middle and tried to appeal to these white voters who were, in many respects, I think, just so disgusted with Donald Trump's vision that they voted for some decency. But listen,
mm,
got to center the issues and concerns of Black people as Black people. We have to be willing to show up. We have to be willing to not kowtow, not scratch when there ain't no itch, and not dance when there ain't no music. We have to be fearless. We have to be clear about an agenda that benefits Black people. And that agenda must include a radically reimagined economic system that is grounded in reparations, grounded in guaranteed basic income, grounded in access to capital, so we can have unfettered flowing of resources to launch small businesses, to support the recovery of our small businesses hit during COVID. We must be able to recoup the tax base of our local cities. That means mayors, city councils, city managers have to be pushed to move money from police departments and prisons into community-based mental health support systems, community-based violence prevention efforts. We must insist on the forgiving of college loan debt. We must insist on ways to reimagine housing away from a profiteering only agenda to one that actually provides basic needs for the people. These are, I think, the ideas that we must win in a governance environment. And I hope that we're up for it. We're going to need everybody to help us. Go to blackchurchpac.com or blackchurchaction.org, or follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're going to be rolling out some opportunities to regionally convene and help us put a 100-day agenda together, first 100 days, to make sure that our needs are being addressed, not as an afterthought, but as a forethought.
yes. Yes, it's a forethought. And I like how you're saying you're going to make it just across the board, reaching out, being inclusive, having varied voices dial in the first 100 days. Every president in modern presidency has a 100-day agenda that they like to lay out and what they're going to accomplish within their first 100 days. And I like what you say. I think it's imperative that that the agenda, whatever it may be, is presented and focus in on drill down in with the first 100 days. And I think people can buy into that. I think that's something that we need. I was talking to someone today, and they were discussing that we need to unify as a people. And I'm saying, well, first and foremost, the people will follow if there's some unified leadership. So how do we address it as far as bringing together the varied Black leadership or very people of conscious leadership as we go forward within these first 100 days?
So I do think that leadership in this moment has to be thought of, and I'm gonna use a movement phrase, leader full. Like we have to think of the full cadre of leaders. We have diverse leaders who resonate with diverse constituencies. We should ground our leadership in what is best for the most amount of people who can reach consensus. We should ground our leadership in shifting the material conditions of those whom we lead. We should move away from those issues that divide us, uh, related to people's sexual orientation, people's uh, uh, stance on abortion, issues that are about denominationalism. It is not to suggest that folks should forego those conversations or concerns, but when we're trying to build a table of consensus with Black people who are experiencing a special kind of hell in America, we need to make sure that
Yes.
we are first prioritizing the well-being of all Black people. And I do
Yes.
that leadership must be thoughtful and forward thinking in this regard. We can't keep allowing conservatives, white folks, progressives to divide Black communities up into such smaller segments where we have no aggregated power for self determination. They win when we allow them to do that. And we can't
That's right.
allow folk to win.
That's right. So when we look at the power base within America for Black people, where do you see it?
Whew. Well, I certainly see the power base in Black churches. I mean, Black churches
Hmm.
is still the singular institution that gather the most amount of Black people every week. Now,
Yes.
one could say that's a blessing, and depending on what you're hearing every week, one could say that's a curse, right? So
Right.
we
Right.
sure that we take advantage of the gathering of Black people in religious spaces. I think street organizations, gangs and hoods and cliques, and sets. We gotta really lean into the neighborhoods around our congregational spaces. I had a young man tell me, Pastor Mike, nobody comes to ask Black men for anything in the hood until it's time to vote, and then they
Mm.
want us to vote. But after the election is over, I don't see anybody down here trying to help me or mine, trying to ask me my opinion about anything. And so we, as Black people, Black church people, Black leaders, have to get proximal to Black young people, men in the neighborhoods, people with criminal
Yes.
convictions. We got to get close to that. That's another huge base. And always, we know Black women are a significant power base in our community. And so we need to make sure that we are very much in tune with them. And then the movement, the kind of protest, organizing, lives, we need to be close to those young people as well. So there's different power bases, but we all got to sit around the table and we got to figure out how we're going to work together.
I think one important thing is, and let you go after this. We're almost at our time here. That uh, the economic development engine within the Black community, what we own, what we control. Many communities have their different areas. Either it be hotels, either it be a concession stores, small stores. It could be whatever it is. It could be the stock market. They have their power base for economic development. And what I believe to be for us as Black people, it is the Black church. The Black church seems to be where we do our organizing, where we do our training, our economic development is based out of that entity. And so I want us to get back to that. I like what you're saying in regards to that. I think we may have lost Pastor Mike. I don't see him anymore. We may have lost our connection, but I want us to get back to that thought as we go forth in the first 100 days of this new administration. All right, this is Pastor Barrett. I just want to share this with you very quickly. We just had on board with us Pastor Mike McBride of Black Church Action Fund, Black Church Rocks, Black Church Pack. And we're excited. Here he is. He's coming back to us. He's coming back to us. So you came back. I want to give you your last words, man. And as we get out of here and continue to watch as these electoral votes come in. And let's talk about how did we. You were in 4 states: North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and Georgia. Oh, how did besides the presidential election, did things pan out as you viewed them to be, and
No,
why or why not?
I was actually a little disheartened on my way to bed last night because I really thought Florida was going to have a better showing. I
Hmm.
thought that North Carolina was going to be a bit stronger, but I had to be reminded that people in Florida still experience a level of voter disenfranchisement that is
Yes.
unparalleled in this country. North Carolina as well has some serious voter disenfranchisement. People were not very trusting of the mail system. Folks experience still a bit of funny things happening at the polling place. I think
Hmm.
Georgia's going to be strong, and so that was encouraging. South Carolina, I was disappointed that Jamie Harrison couldn't pull out that victory.
Yes,
So
that'd have been
I,
nice.
I wish that we had a few more victories to speak of, but I
Hmm.
do think at the end of the day, this administration has been so successful in obfuscating and confusing people, making people distrust institutions and causing such dissonance, in people's sense of truth and facts, that just getting out from underneath the leadership of this authoritarian wannabe guy, I think is the
Yes.
takeaway we can imagine. I think the cumulative impact of the work we did in these states and beyond, including Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, I think the cumulative impact of Black churches across denominations, making sure people got to the polls, making sure people were excited about voting, I
Yes.
think it contributes to a victory that we all should be very proud of. But we should not rest on our laurels. We should rest up, but we
Yes.
should not rest on our laurels. There's a lot of work we have to do to undo the damage of this administration, chief of which is getting a grips on coronavirus. I mean, one out of every 1,000 Black people in this country have died because of coronavirus. One out of 2,100 white folks have died because of coronavirus. And all of our other racial groups fall in between that. So we have a ravaging global pandemic that is still loose in the land. It's
Yeah.
expecting to take an uptick come this flu season. And we need someone in the administration nationally that can help put at least together some kind of a response. And so I do hope that our work in the South has sowed some seeds that will prayerfully, reap a harvest in the weeks and months to come.
Yeah.
But it was great being on a bus, traveling through 14 cities, getting off the bus, seeing beautiful Black faces, beautiful church mothers, beautiful pastors and evangelists, people just
Yes.
excited. It was a blessing to do it, and we're gonna do it again. Next time we're gonna hit the Midwest, we're gonna hit the Southwest, we're gonna hit the Northeast. I won't be on all them buses. Maybe we're gonna put you
Well,
let you be
I want to thank you for allowing me to get on the bus, man. I stayed twice as long as I thought I was going to stay. I'd almost run out of clothes. Thank God for T-shirts to say "Take your souls to the polls." I was able to make it, man, and get back and get my sermon together for Sunday. But man, it was awesome. Man, I want to thank you for taking time out here on Leadership Talks. This is just an impromptu little conversation we want to have for America right now. This is our leadership right now in the Black church. He's not a bishop nor apostle, but man, he's doing the work of them and others. And I
I'm
want to
just
thank you,
I'm just a bootleg preacher, doc, just
a
trying to bring
bootleg preacher, amen. But shaking up the world, shaking up the world, shaking up the world. All right, Pastor Mike, I want to thank you all. Hey, if you guys want to, this is a Black Church Action Fund. You can find them here at blackchurchaction.org. Get that information. Let's get active. Let's be supportive. And they have a button there that you can still donate. Pastor Mike had this beautiful bus he was taking all across the southeastern part of the country, and that wasn't free. That wasn't free. And he's making a sacrifice being away from family and friends. He's actually from California, right? Northern
Yes,
California?
sir. I'm from the Yay area, born and raised in San Francisco, live in Oakland, pastor in Berkeley. Yep, sir.
Yes, sir. So he came all the way across the country to stir us up here down in the Southeast. We want to thank him for that. All right, my brother. I won't keep you any long, man. Marlon Milner says you a bootleg prophet, not a bootleg preacher, a bootleg prophet. Amen. That's all right.
Yeah,
Hey,
I
man,
just
thank you very much.
pray I can make it to heaven.
That's it. You're going to get there, brother. I'll be right there with you. We're going to party when we get there.
All right
All
now.
right.
Talk to you.
Blessings to you.
Take care.
Peace. Again, this is Pastor Barrett of the Empower Living Church. We want to thank you for joining us here at Leadership Talks. Just a little post-election conversation, and we're going to dial in again with a couple other people before the end of the day. All right, so go back to what you're doing. Let's keep watching as electoral votes come in, and let's see what thus saith the Lord at the end of the day. God bless.